Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Robin's Roundup, joined as always by me, Sean Fisher, Tom Langford and Jake Matho, and today we're joined by special guest, goalkeeping coach Kieran Bentley. If we first start by rolling back the years, as a Blackburn fan, was your kind of main goal to play for Blackburn as a kid? Or
No, not really. I got into football much later on. I didn't really start taking it seriously till I was probably about 13 or 14. Obviously, I played football like everybody else, but it wasn't my sort of main focus. Like as a kid, I had other interests. But football for me came a little bit later.
Fair enough. And you played mostly amateur football during your playing career. I presume it was as a goalkeeper, but just thought I'd
Yeah.
As a goalkeeper, yeah. Obviously, most successful as a coach. Was coaching kind of the path you always wanted to go down when you started football?
Probably, I'd say, yeah. I kind of coaching came very early to me. I first started coaching at the age of 20, 21. And then by the time I was 22, 23, I got the opportunity to go out to America. And that kind of put me on a path. It put me on a path to where I am now. Sorry, guys. My voice is killing me today. Just give me 1 second.
No, really?
Yeah, like I said, coaching came a little bit later. I got the chance to go to the States when I was 21, 22. And that kind of gave me a little bit of a pathway, something to sort of look towards, because before that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, if I'm quite honest. But I went to America, I got a chance. And as my time went on through that period, you started getting people telling you were good at it, and you should think about making a career out of it, and that kind of gave me a bit of confidence, really. And after 2 years of being out in the States, I came home, and the first thing I did was I chucked a CV into Blackburn Rovers, and that was the start of things for me, really.
Yeah, definitely. And then you joined Blackburn Rovers, obviously your boyhood club, as a community sports coach. How was it to kind of like wear that badge for the first time?
It was brilliant. It was, I mean, back then, Blackburn Rovers were a Premier League club. Everybody in Blackburn's, proud of that team, and it's a main sort. It's a Blackburn's like a working class town, and it means everything to people. So to be associated with them, it was massive. It was huge for me. I was really proud to sort of represent Blackburn Rovers at that time.
And as you kind of started as that sports coach, was your aim always to try and climb the ladder at Blackburn?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I started out as a community coach. I quickly got to know people that were working within the academy, people that were working within the women's side of the game, and after a couple of years of getting to know those kind of people, doors started to open up. So, I got a chance to work with the women's team, and I was given time to think about to think about the opportunity, and I think I made my decision within about 30 seconds that I wanted to sort of get on board with the women's team at that time. So it was a big time for the women's team then. We'd just been promoted into the Women's Premier League, which at the time was the equivalent to the Women's Elite League as it is now. So I got the chance straight away to work with elite players, England players, and being a young coach and working with a young team, it was a great way to sort of cut her teeth, so to speak.
And as a coach, obviously your kind of job is to progress players, but working with England International, did it kind of progress you as a coach?
I had to learn quickly, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was young. I think at this point I was 24, 25 years old, and I'd gone from working with a junior club, under 16s Lammet Juniors, to being asked to work with the current England under 21 goalkeeper.
Wow.
So it was like, wow, okay. Yeah. It was quite a big stepping stone, but and this was pre-YouTube and all that kind of stuff, so it's very difficult to sort of try and find bits and pieces to work with. But yeah, it was a steep learning curve, but absolutely loved it. It was fantastic.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you did a bit of like assistant management in the women's team.
Yeah.
Did you ever thought of like pursuing like a management path?
Not really. No, I enjoyed working in the junior section first, and then I got the chance, obviously, work within as the goalkeeping coach with the women's team. Like after that, And, at that point, you saw kind of firsthand how tough a job it is. And, you've got to have a certain sort of skill set to be a manager. You've got to really believe 1000% in yourself that you're doing the right thing. And it's a lot of pressure. And unless it was going to be my full-time job, nah, I don't think I'd want to do it. Not at all.
And then after your success at Blackburn, you moved on to Blackpool. How difficult was it to kind of make that move and say goodbye to
it was a difficult time, really. I think that job came about because the Women's Elite League was about to be created. Sorry, guys, throat again. And we just found out that we would not be entering the Elite League that year. You had to sort of bid to go into the league, and it would take quite a lot of investment to move into it. So even though the club had sort of prepared to go in, we just felt that at that time it was a lot of money to invest in something we didn't really know much about. So we said we'd leave it, we'd give it a year or two. If it became a success, we'd look at rebidding and trying to get back into the Elite League. And during that time, like a lot of our players wanted to be in it, and we lost most of the squad. We lost players to Everton, to Liverpool. Trying to think who else was in the league at that time. It was mainly those two clubs, really. And that kind of left us with a smaller squad, a younger squad, and we knew that there would be no promotion for 2 years. So we kind of just felt that, well, what's the point in kind of hanging about, really? If we can't progress, then we needed to kind of look for something new. And at that point, I knew the first team goalkeeper coach at Blackpool. They'd just been promoted into the Premier League, and he asked me if I wanted to take the Centre of Excellence job with the young players, and I said, yeah, of course, it'd be great. It was like the next step on the rung, so to speak. So it was a no-brainer. And
obviously, you've worked a lot in women's football. How important do you think it is at Ashton that they've kind of included that women's squad?
I think it's great for the community. It's great for the club. I just think I know people have been saying this for a long time now, but women's football is getting bigger and bigger all the time. There's more investment. There's still quite a long way to go, but I think for Ashton, this year, them sort of creating that team, I think it's fantastic. I think it's super brilliant.
And throughout your career, one name's mentioned quite a lot, Adam Lakeland. You've worked with him, obviously, at Kieran. How's your relationship with him? And why is
he up and down, I'm pretty sure he'd agree. We've known each other a long time. We worked together at Blackburn Rovers. We both started in the community office. We both were involved with the women's team. We were both involved at Kieran Ashton. We were both involved at Northwich. And also I did work for him for probably 6-7 years as well. So we've known each other a long time.
And also, as a Blackburn fan, you've worked under or with Mark Atkins. How was it working with him?
A bit nerve-wracking at first. It was kind of like to sort of work with like one of your heroes. It was at first it was quite nerving. It was sort of I remembered. In fact, I used to live like round the corner from my mate's house, and as kids we often would kick the ball in the back of the fence, and we'd always be jumping over trying to nick it back. So it was kind of like bloody hell. We used to break into your garden, sort of thing. But yeah, it was nerve-wracking. But you got to know him quite well, and he was a tremendous guy to sort of work with at the time.
Yeah, and obviously you look up to him. Was he any different as you expected to work with him? Was he?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, they always say never meet your heroes, but he was a really sort of down-to-earth guy, and he did bring a lot of experience into the dressing room at Stalybridge at the time, and I think that was needed. But it was again another big learning experience for myself.
If you had to say the most valuable thing you learned from his experiences, what would you say?
Just what it took to win. The guy won the Premier League, so he always tried to instill a winner's mentality into the team, and him and Keith Briggs both tried the best to do that. And at the time, we were working with a very young side, and we were fighting for our lives in the Conference North. But yeah, just that winning mentality really, and what it does actually take to be the best.
Yeah, And then after that, you rejoined Adam at Northwich and had somewhat of a rollercoaster of time there. How would you sum it up?
Yeah, it was a strange one. It was the first year we got to a final, played against Spennymoor, and we lost it. And then the summer was up and down. It was sort of it was a rebuilding process for everybody. Dave Wild was also involved at that time, who's now, well, he was at Mosley and he's moved to Matlock, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chairman, I think everybody knows what happened to Jim Rush about him going to prison. So the money kind of fell out of the club and we had to rebuild, and it was tough. It was really difficult. The people around the club were throwing every penny that they had into the team to try and keep them going. So it was a tough time, really, the second season.
Yeah, as you mentioned that arrest there, not going into it too much, but just how much did it unsettle that club?
Say that again, sorry.
How much did it unsettle the club?
Massively, huge. I don't think anybody stayed from the previous season. We couldn't afford those wages. I think we had a player called Richie Bennett, who's now a League Two player, I think, playing for. Who's he playing for at the minute? Can't remember. Yeah, we just didn't have the money, so we had to sort of rebuild a team. I think we kept the goalkeeper, and I think that was about it. So it was about trying to recruit, and then players coming in, and then not always being able to pay wages on time, and it was really, really, really difficult. And it all sort of came to a head, ironically, just before we played Ashton United in a cup match. And as a management team, we kind of felt, well, we're draining the money out of this club at the minute, just trying to keep them in this division. So we felt that maybe we should step away, let the club maybe drop down a division, sort of drop the wages and rebuild, and they did that. And right now they've been great. They're really thriving as a club at the minute. So I really hope the best for them. I hope they can sort of at some stage maybe reclimb the leagues. They've got a big fan base there. I'm sure they'll come back if they can show some good results.
Yeah, obviously that's really a unique and difficult situation to face.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge in your career, would you say? Sounds quite stressful.
I think so. It was testing. I mean, yeah. Adam Lakeland was the manager at the time, and I'd known him for years, and that man just has always been hell bent on being a manager. And he'd gone from the women's game, he'd moved into the academy section at Blackburn, and then he found he was sort of missing that, being a first team manager and that win at all costs sort of mentality. And after maybe 2 or 3 years of sort of applying for jobs, being knocked back, not getting interviewed, eventually somebody did give him an opportunity, and it was really difficult to see him sort of wrestle with it, because he got this opportunity. He didn't know when it was going to come back again, and it was really hurting him to sort of to maybe sort of step away. So that was a challenge, really, trying to say, look, it's time to sort of move on, and another chance will come. But yeah, that was probably the most difficult thing, was watching Adam sort of struggle with it, really, because like I said, it meant everything to him being the manager, and the last thing he wanted to do was walk away.
Yeah. And after that difficult period, how did your move to Ashton come about?
I had a break. I needed one after that. It was stressful. It was really stressful. I think we all did. Wildy needed one. I did. Adam did. I think probably took the rest of that season off. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 months left. And by the summer, I wanted to get back into it. And I knew Simon Woodford from the Curzon Ashton days, because he was a player back then. And in fact, it was actually Adam who said, why don't you speak to Woody? I've heard he's got the assistant manager's job at Ashton. So I had a chat with Woody. And then I had a chat with Jodie, and that was it. And I came.
Fair enough. And I think that neatly brings us into your time at Ashton. But just before Jake discusses that with you, I think we've got a game. Bye.
Right, okay, for this game, like we do with everyone else, we've tried to make it very specific to the person that we have on the show. So for you, Kieran, I've come up with a game that is very similar to Play Your Cards, right? So hopefully you don't get sued for that.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I've based it around questions and stats of players that have played for Ashton or Blackburn or are goalkeepers. And I'm going to give you a stat, and then you're going to tell me if you think it's higher or lower.
Okay, go on.
Than the one previous. Tom and Sean also don't know, so I'm going to go around all of you. I might go to. I'll vary who I go to each time just to give it a bit of a fair outcome.
I'll spice it up. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the first one is we're going to start with Paul Robinson.
Okay.
He played 201 matches for Blackburn. Now we have to start somewhere. Do you have any idea how many clean sheets he might have got? Maybe to the nearest
200 appearances. Did he play 4 seasons?
I'm not sure the ins and outs of it. I just saw like a total accumulation of his career, and he played 201 matches for Blackburn and such clean sheets.
His last year.
Tom, want to have a little gamble?
His last year was a relegation year, so there wouldn't have been many clean sheets that year.
Oh God!
I'm going to say 20, 25.
Being very pessimistic to the actual outcome. Tom or Sean, either of you want to guess?
I was going to 40.
Oh.
You're warmer, but it's more.
Really?
More than 40? I'll go like 48 then. We'll go
47.
48.
Really?
Yeah,
that is decent, that.
We had to start somewhere. That's not the game. That's the introduction. So we've got 47 clean sheets. The next question is that the amount of goals that Ashton United conceded this season in the league, was it higher or lower than the 47 clean sheets that Paul Robinson kept?
Amount of goals conceded?
The goals conceded in the league this season for Ashton United, did they concede higher than 47 or lower than 47? I'll give you a clue. None of these are the same as the last one. So
Higher.
It wasn't 47.
I'm saying
You're
higher.
saying higher?
Yeah.
Tom and Sean, do either of you want to have a little guess before we move?
I don't think we conceded that many. I'm going to go lower.
Okay.
Sean? I'll go higher.
Tom, you're correct. It was 45.
45.
So it's two less. Next one, Joe Hart. He's made 75 appearances for England. How many clean sheets did he make?
Higher or lower than 45?
Higher or lower than 45?
Surely.
Lower.
Lower.
Got it.
You're going lower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it was lower, but it was only by 2. He got 43 clean sheets in 75 games.
Really? Wow.
That's quite good.
How mad is that? Mad is that?
Good start.
It's not in the next one, so.
Next one. Maybe one more for you, Kieran. I don't know. Depends how well you know your Blackburn side. But the side that won the title in 94 to 95 season, did they concede more or less goals than 43?
I'm going to say they conceded less than 43 goals.
Less than 43?
Yeah.
Boys, for a title-winning side, what would you say?
I think it was more.
Title-winning Blackburn side.
I think it was more
than 43.
Yeah, I think it's more as well.
You're both saying more.
Yeah.
It was 39. So it was
Yeah.
Wow.
That's mad.
4 less.
Deserved winners then.
So, Chris Rowney, most appearances for Ashton this season in all competitions. Has he got more or less than 39?
Less.
The confidence that Tom showed there.
That's why.
36, isn't it?
37.
Oh.
So 2 less than the 39 goals that Blackburn conceded. I was going to say sorry for rubbing that in there, but you won the league, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Next one we've got is the Ashton United accumulation of points that they obtained last season. So in the season in the National League North, how many did they get? Was it more or less than 37?
Oh my.
Less. I'm going to say less.
You're going to say less?
Yeah.
What are you saying, boys?
I'll go less.
Yeah, less.
All going less? Yeah, it was 35. 2 less.
Okay.
Next one. We're halfway there. Next one is, how many thousands are there in the capacity of Ewood Park? So I don't want the full 1,000 number. I just want how many thousands are there. So if there's 10,000, it'd be 10. Are there more or less thousands than 35? You will
Less. I think I know the exact number.
Do you trust?
Oh,
Do you trust your avid boyhood fan?
yeah, I'm going. Yeah.
Or are you going to
Yeah,
disagree?
yeah, we'll trust him.
You trust him? What's the exact number?
I think it's 31,500.
I've got 31,367. But to be fair, like the fact that you've got 31,000
Yeah.
is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was less. Next one is Brad Friedl. He scored for Blackburn. From how many yards out did he score? Kieran, I'm going to ask you last. How many yards out did he score? Was it more or less than 31 yards out? I'm sure.
I remember the goal.
I remember the goal.
That's why I asked you.
I'll go less. I'll go less.
You're going last. You go more, Sean, yeah?
Yeah.
And Kieran, what was it?
It was a lot less than 31 yards. I'm pretty sure it was around the penalty spot.
8 yards out.
Yeah,
It was on the corner.
Mm.
I saw that. You equalised with him, and then you went and conceded a minute later.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
You went
I think
to
it was
lose
at the game. I think I remember being at the
Really?
match for that. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Mad. Only for you to
Yeah.
lose. Heartbreaking. Let me just take that. Next one we've got is: are there more or less goalkeepers to have scored in the Prem than 8?
Ooh. Premier League or top division.
In the
Premier
Premier
League.
League. Ooh, let's have a think.
Aye.
I'm gonna do less.
I'm gonna just. I have no idea, but I think it's gonna be close. I think it's either gonna be 9 or 11. I'm gonna say there's more than 8.
Okay. You're going less, Sean.
Yeah, I'll go less. I'm gonna 6.
I was feeling 6. I'll go less.
You're going less. You're both right. It's less, unfortunately, Kieran. But it was only 5.
Oh, wow.
Can you name them or any of them?
Some of them.
We've got one. We've got
Brad Friedl,
Brad.
Paul Robinson,
Yeah.
Scott Carson. Did he score?
No.
Uh,
One for Stoke.
Yeah.
Ipswich goalkeeper from time ago. What was his name? What was he called?
We've got a Stoke one, an Everton one, and the United one.
Oh my.
Peter Schmeichel,
Yeah.
Asmir Begovic,
Oh.
and Tim Howard.
Tim Howard. I thought, way off.
Anyway, moving on. You did well there, boys. Unlucky. It was a close one. That's what I've tried to keep it to throughout. The next one is Ashton are on a run of how many games having only conceded a maximum of 1 goal. So they've either kept a clean sheet or they've conceded once. So how many games? Is it more or less than 5? And this run is still going.
Ooh. So like when we last conceded 2, basically.
Last conceded 2. Was it more than 5 games ago or less than 5 games ago?
It'd be the Scarborough game then. So that was the last time we did it, if it serves me right.
How many games ago was that?
God, last season feels like a year ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was the end of February we played Scarborough.
We'll get more than 5 then.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than 5.
More than 5. Yeah, it was 8.
Yeah.
8 games ago.
Wow.
So we're on a good run here for the defensive side. Next one is Stephen Warnock has got 1 England cap, and it was whilst he was playing for Blackburn. What shirt number did he get?
What, for England?
Higher than 8
England?
or lower
For
than 8? Yep.
For England?
He played 1 game for England, and it was whilst he was at Blackburn in 2008.
What? You're talking about his shirt number for England, not
For England,
Black.
yeah.
Right.
On that 1 game.
I can't. Did he come on as a sub?
I'm not too sure.
Definitely
about that
didn't
one.
start.
All I know is that he played 1 game and he wore a specific shirt number.
Wow. I'm going to say he came on as a sub, so it could be.
The big question is whether he started or not, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Then you know what the number is. Well, if you're going to say it was a sub, would you say it was more or less than 8?
I would say it was more than 8.
Are you all committing to more, or is anyone going to say he started?
Yeah, we'll all go more.
Yeah, you're all wise with the support you've got for Stephen Warnock. And our penultimate one here is how many more points has Clegg won at home than Jody Bannon this season? Is it more than 13 or less than 13? So has Michael Clegg won more than 13 points at home than Jody Bannon did, or is it less?
More than Jody. Ooh.
So he's so if we were to say he's got 13 more points than Jody.
Yeah.
But it's a certain number. It's
I don't know.
13. Either more or less.
It could be less. Home was a sticking point for us for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then I just can't remember the run. We went on such a good run after January. I just can't remember how many home games we had. I'm going to say less. I'm going to say less. Yeah.
Saying less as well, Sean? Tom,
Yeah.
are you saying less?
I'll go more.
Tom, you were right. He's got 16 points. 16 more points because he got 16 and he got 21. Yeah, no, he got 16 more. So well done. It was tight.
Shows what I know.
And the final one is Paul Robinson. We thought we'd start with him and we'll end with him as well. He left to go to your arch rivals Burnley. What shirt number did he wear? Was it higher or lower than 16? Burnley.
I'm going to say higher.
Yeah.
What are you boys going to say?
I'll go higher. It stinks of like a 38 or something.
Sean?
I'll go lower. Why not? We'll make it interesting.
Going lower? Kieran? Have you gone higher, did you say?
Higher, yeah, higher.
You're on higher. It was 17.
Yes.
Or one higher than 16. Which means...
Not quite 38, Tom.
Nah.
Sean, you got 9. Tom, you got 10. And Kieran, you got 11. So, well done, Kieran.
Thank you.
At least you know your club, your position, and your local club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Together. Anyway, just don't go watch Play Your Cards, right? Because they'll have done it a lot more professionally than me. Anyway.
They'd have had some actual cards.
Yeah, for a start. They've at least been able to see each other.
Yeah.
Right, anyway, we'll move nicely on to Ashton. We did touch on it. I think Sean did touch on it. But, was there a reason that was there any specific reasons that enticed you to join Ashton United?
I think the level that they were at was important. I felt like I'd done my time in the Evo Stick Division 1. I'd done my time in the Conference North, and I felt that actually at that point the Evo Stick Prem I'd never worked in. So to work in a league which I hadn't worked in before was enticing, and also just the kind of after speaking to Jody and Woody, just what their ambitions were. It was sort of it kind of matched with what I wanted. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. There was nothing more to really consider.
What as a whole of the club, what have your experiences been like? Has it been a roller coaster? Has it been straightforward?
No, it's been great. It's been great. One thing I will say about Ashton is since I've been here, it's been it's been the best club I've worked at since I left Blackburn Rovers. That's for sure. It's been a fantastic club, from the people who run it at the top all the way down to the management staff, all the fans, everything. It's been a great club, and this is actually the longest I've stayed at a club since I left Blackburn Rovers as well. So that kind of shows that kind of speaks a lot for me.
Is your support slowly going to Ashton then? Who would you support if Ashton played Blackburn?
It's a tough one these days because
no comment type of question.
Sort of. It's difficult because, like a lot of fans at Blackburn, we're all still feeling a little bit bitter since the Venky's takeover. So I don't quite follow them as much as I used to. I certainly don't know the squad now like I did pre-2011. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think I'm always going to stick with my hometown team. But if I'm still at Ashton and I'm in the dugout and we play Blackburn Rovers, then obviously I want Ashton to win.
Yeah, I understand that. Speaking more about your job in particular as a coach, is it something you have to keep strictly professional, or are you friends with the goalkeepers? Do you keep in contact with them? Because you go through quite a few of them in your career.
Yeah, we do at Ashton, that's for sure. Yeah, I think when it comes to being a goalkeeping coach, your sort of relationship is a bit more unique because you're always working one-to-one with somebody rather than working with a group. And I think that, yes, there are sort of boundaries in place because you don't want to become too friendly with someone because at some stage you might have to let them go, and you might have to give them some bad news. So I think it's important that you do have a professional relationship, but at the same time, the goalkeeper needs to be able to trust the keeper coach. I'm the person that's always going to be in their corner, and it's up to me to sort of tell them the truth when it's needed, and also you've got to sort of put your arm around the shoulder as well. So I think the goalkeeper needs to know that he can trust the keeper coach, and I think that's where the fine line is. You're going to be friendly to a point. But at the same time, yeah, you've certainly got to keep it professional. You certainly don't want standards to slip. You don't want to get too jolly and just start, I don't know, letting the goalkeeper off with stuff, when really they should be, working just as hard as everybody else.
Do you keep in contact with them once they've left you and it's no longer a business matter?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah, some of my good friends are goalkeepers I've worked with in the past. I speak to Ollie Martin quite a lot. Lewis King is another one I speak to quite regularly. Speak to Harry Turner still, and one or two others, Max Povey. So yeah, I've got some good friends who are goalkeepers that I've worked with.
All right, and in this season, like you said, we have been through a fair amount of keepers, the likes of Jonty and Carnell and Allenson and now Hartley. Is there anyone that stood out to you in your relationship with them? Not so much the skill on the pitch, but your chemistry that you've had with them when you've worked with them one-to-one that stood out?
It depends on quite a few factors really, because the older keepers, mainly the first team keepers that you have, you're going to have that sort of professional relationship, and each goalkeeper is completely different. Everyone's got a different type of personality, but more the younger ones, I guess that they're still in their learning phase. So you're constantly trying to give them advice. You're constantly trying to help them with the technique and other attributes, and you can quite easily build up quite a big bond with the younger ones because they're so enthusiastic. They do anything to make the first team, and that relationship I think can build quite quickly. I think with the first team keepers, it can be a little bit different. It just depends on what their attitude's like to training, what their attitude's like on a match day. Like for example, Dave Carnell, fantastic guy, unbelievable guy, brilliant goalkeeper, and he had he was one of the most laid back people I've ever met. It didn't matter how big a game it was. We'd be doing a warm up and he'd be asking me what I watched on TV the night before, while we were serving, and then other goalkeepers, they can be really, really quiet because they're sort of in the zone, and that match day prep it's for the goalkeeper. It's what makes them feel relaxed. So you can't really sort of try and force anything on them. You sort of just let everything sort of happen sort of naturally, really, I guess. So it's kind of a difficult question to sort of answer, really.
No, I know you've answered it thoroughly and perfectly. So if that's not a good answer, then I don't know what's a good one. Going back a few years to when you started at Ashton and the year that they got promoted to the Northern Prem. I've just not said that right, but you know what I mean. So the Conference North. Yeah. How was it? Of course, it's easy for us to be like, I bet it was great, but how was it as someone that experienced it?
Getting promoted?
Yeah.
It was exhilarating. It was stressful. A lot of mixed emotions. I mean, obviously we've spoke about Adam Lakeland already, and at the time I was working for him, and we he's my boss at work, and we had to knock him out of the semi-final at home. So that was a really tough night.
Your P45 came.
Yeah, I was expecting it the next day. But yeah, I mean, it was I've been in a few relegation battles as well, and they're just the same. It's a roller coaster because it's not easy to get promotion. It's not easy to stay in the division. It's not easy to win all the time. And it was. I felt like I'd aged probably 10 years in that season, but it was worth it. Like getting promoted at the end of it, it was certainly worth it.
You've definitely lived the roller coaster of a career at Ashton because you joined arguably the right time and then the wrong time and then the right time again.
Yeah,
but, you say about the highs, how bad were the lows then? Because you have to mention that because we did come crawling back down to this the following season.
Yeah, it was difficult to that was a difficult pill to swallow. It's not nice. That was actually my first ever relegation that I'd been in. It wasn't nice to sort of to experience. Everyone was disappointed. The staff, the players, nobody wants a relegation on the CV. But it was a tough year. It was really tough. We arguably we probably had the smallest budget in the league to start with. Sorry guys, I'm drying up again.
It's all right.
Yeah, we probably had the smallest budget in the league. That meant that it was difficult to contract players. So even though we had a promotion-winning team, we couldn't really carry on the momentum that we had, like going into the new season, because we'd lost more than half of that team in the summer. So the summer was sort of a rebuilding process for Jody and for Simon. And I remember going through that summer period, we, instead of maybe sort of locking down how we were going to play, we spent most of the summer trying to recruit. And it was only towards maybe the very start of the season where we started putting plans in place on how the team would play. And so we never really got that chance to get things set in stone in the summer. So it was difficult. So we had a rebuilding process. We started the season well. We got a couple of good results early on. And then quickly what happened was the players that were doing well in our team at that time, again, we lost them. We couldn't contract them. They went on to bigger teams. And for the second time that season, we had to rebuild a team. So in the space of 6 months, we'd had 3 new squads at Ashton. And that became really difficult to manage. We just became a revolving door by the end of it, and it was difficult to really just sort of get a team to compete on the pitch every week. But we didn't give up. We went to the end, and I think maybe 1 or 2 results went against us, and that obviously that cost us, and we went down. But yeah, it was tough. It was hard, but again, a big learning curve.
Do you think that the season following in that summer was the initial aim to fight to like return back into the league, or was it just to balance the ship?
What, this season just gone?
Yeah, but initially before the season, so in the summer following the relegation, was it to balance the ship, or was it? Were you optimistic about going back up?
No, it was felt by everybody that this would be a reset button. And did we keep anyone? Aaron Chalmers. Who else did we keep?
Sam Sheridan, Tom
Sit. Yeah, so we kept 4 or 5 players from the previous season.
Yeah.
We felt it was a reset. We felt that we'd get a new squad in, and we'd go again. And that was echoed through it by everybody, to be honest. But unfortunately for Jody, it didn't quite work out the way that he wanted.
Yeah, no, I feel that. We've spoken at the highs, spoken at the lows. Do you think that since Clegg has signed, it's had a similar atmosphere to what you felt in the atmosphere of the promotion-winning season?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the good atmosphere comes with winning, I guess. And when you're winning, everything is rosy, everything's fantastic, and when you're losing, everything's horrendous. It's you become bipolar being involved in football. And I think when you start to go on that winning run, everyone feels confident, everyone has got trust in each other because everybody's got each other's backs, and the proof is in the results on the pitch at the time. So the winning and the good times sort of marry together. So yeah, I think certainly by the time the season had finished, that feel good factor was certainly back in the dressing room, and it's just a shame really that we didn't get to finish the season, because it'd have been interesting to see where we would have finished come the end of the year.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's I feel like that's felt around everyone.
Yeah,
Players,
yeah.
staff, fans, us lot.
Mhm.
I mean, we are part of the fans now. Anyway, so.
Yeah.
Finally, my last question on this section is it's a bit related to Jodie and Michael, like how their ways of coaching was seen, because you can see in the interviews and stuff they have different personas. You can see the atmospheres changing, you can see the performances have changed. But from a coach's perspective, how different are they, or how similar are they as managers?
Well, they set the teams up differently, that's for sure. You know, Jodie had a philosophy of playing through the lines, and it worked very well for us in the first season, getting promoted. It started well for us in the Conference North, but I think when you play that way, you've got to have a particular set of players, and we certainly had them, but obviously because of the budget, we couldn't keep them, so we lost them, and that became difficult. And I think from what I've seen from Cleggy, you know, he's more of a kind of square. What's the word? What's the terminology? Like square pegs in square holes. He'll kind of, you know, he'll set a team up with the players that he has, and I think when he first came into the club, it did take a while to sort of to get the ball rolling. But once he did, you've seen that it's quite a difficult train to stop. So I think Cleggy realised quite early on that, you know, we needed to put a bit of youth into the team, get some legs in there. But I think the two signings of Greg Hartley and particularly Louis Almond, I think they really changed our season, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's interesting you'd say that Louis Almond stands out for you out of everyone, because there have been some really good signings that have come in and taken the season by storm. That brings a close to our round of Ashton United and present day. Just before we move on to Tom's section on the future, we're going to play another game that we play with everyone, one you might be a bit more familiar with, and that one is Spill the Beans. Right, so for those of you that don't know this game, it's very straightforward. We're just going to ask some light-hearted questions, hypothetical questions, anything we can think of, questions that we think we'll get a decent answer from Kieran. And he's been full of them today, so hopefully we'll get some more.
Okay.
First question I've got for you. I asked you something like this before, and it was related to the goalkeepers you work with. But if we look at your whole career, is there a goalkeeper that stands out that you've worked with that has been your best influence, or has been someone that you've really got on with?
Gonna crush a few hearts here, aren't I?
As long as you don't say not this guy, then you should be all right.
I'd say when I went to Stalybridge, we were full time, and we brought in a goalkeeper called Lewis King. We brought in a second goalkeeper called Ollie Martin, who we know has just signed for FC United. And I think, obviously, I'd worked with the women's players in the past. I'd worked at Curzon Ashton with Josh Olorenshaw and for a brief period, Hakan Burton. But then this is my first time ever working in a full-time environment. So Lewis King had sort of just recently come out of Derby and sort of came to Stalybridge after a brief spell at Boston, I think. I learnt a lot from him because I was working with him day to day all year. And I just got to learn that mentality of being a professional goalkeeper and what it was all about on a day to day basis. So I'd say probably Lewis and potentially Ollie, probably those two really. I think I learnt a lot from the pair of them, and we're still good friends now. You know, we speak a lot. Both of them are two people I'll chat to quite regular about goalkeeping topics and the league and things that are happening around. So I think probably those two, if I'm honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. Leads nicely onto the next question. If you could work with one goalkeeper in world football, past or present, who would it be?
Paul Robinson.
You know what? To be fair to Paul Robinson, I thought it was quality when he was at Blackburn. Like there were talk of him going back into the England team when he was at Blackburn Rovers, but I don't know. My heart probably says somebody like Tim Flowers or Brad Friedl, but your head's got to be somebody like Edwin van der Sar or Buffon, I guess. Really, if I'm honest, any of those four for me. I'll take any of them.
Or like
the next one might be the same answer, but who's your footballing idol?
I had quite a few. I grew up with Blackburn Rovers winning the Premier League when I was a teenager, and we all know when in your teenage years, football's magic. It's the promised land, and that Blackburn Rovers team were full of stars. Full of heroes. But people like Colin Hendry, Tim Flowers, Alan Shearer, Chris Sutton, Stuart Ripley, David Batty. Pick any of them.
Yeah. Just a side question: when you were younger, like, how much did you get into the fierceness of the rivalry between Blackburn and Burnley?
Yeah, it was. Well, it still is now. It was more. I'm gonna annoy quite a few Burnley fans here, but I think it was more the Burnley fans that had the beef with Blackburn than the other way around. We didn't really give monkeys, if I'm honest, but obviously they were down the road. They'd not beaten us for 35 years. They'd seen us take all the glory, and they just had really bitter fans. I remember one year we hadn't played them in decades, and they were playing us at Ewood Park. And if you were a Burnley fan and you lived in Blackburn for this game, you had to if you lived. In fact, there was a Burnley fan that lived near the ground, so he first of all had to go to Burnley to get his ticket, and then he had to come back to Blackburn, get on a coach at Blackburn, drive to Burnley. He'd have to drive to Burnley, get on a coach back to Blackburn, go into the ground, get beat, which they did quite. I think it was 5-1.
Practice.
Get beat, and then they had to sit in the ground for 45 minutes while all the Blackburn fans were dispersed. So you can imagine right now they were pretty angry. They then had to get back onto a coach, drive back to Burnley. By the time they got back to Burnley, they were that mad that they got off the coach and they destroyed their own town centre. They actually wrecked their own town centre because they were that angry.
Wow.
So it made all the papers. It was mad. It was really, really mad. So that just kind of shows how heated it is.
Yeah.
I remember walking around my own shopping centre, and I had my Blackburn Rovers kit when I was working there. And I was getting grief off Burnley fans in my own town centre because I had my Rovers kit on. It was just a weird bunch.
If you had to go for a drink with a Burnley player, who would you go with?
With a Burnley player, probably Stephen Reid, because he was a Blackburn Rovers legend. That's probably why.
Next question, moving away from Blackburn and Burnley. What has been your funniest moment during your time at Ashton?
Wow, funniest time. To be fair, there's been quite a few, if I'm honest. There's been quite a lot of laughs. Wow, funniest time. There's a few things I could mention, but I don't think they'd be appropriate for a YouTube podcast.
You can always say it, and then we'll just bleep it out.
Just the whole.
And then everyone watching's like, "What did he say?"
Oh my god!
I remember when Chaddy was here. I remember he set up something called Dummy Club. So I don't know if you're familiar with what Dummy Club is, but every away game, or was it every game? I can't remember. Basically, somebody was nominated in the group to suggest an item that everybody had to bring on the coach to the game. And if you didn't do it, you had to put a £5 into the kitty. But it could be anything from wearing your partner's underwear on your head, or bringing in an inappropriate toy, shall we say. Or it could be something as simple as, I don't know, bringing a bag of Haribos in. So the Dummy Club always brought out a bit of a laugh. So yeah, I'd say dummy club really.
Sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah. Some of them are quite funny.
And then we've got an absolute classic on Robin's Roundup. Who has the worst haircut at the club?
I'm pretty sure a few of them would probably say me, but I'm probably going to say Ben Oycastle because he's got the biggest curtains going.
Ben Langford.
Yeah, but there was a time when Brewster had bigger curtains. So, but we'll save that for another time.
Brilliant.
Right, we've asked this one quite a few times. It's got some good answers. But if a film was going to be made on your life, who would you have play yourself? And if you can think of a name, what would you call it?
Hell, I don't know.
Main question is, who would you have play you?
Well, it'd have to be good looking, wouldn't they? So,
I see a bit of Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey, I'll take that. I will take that. I don't know. That's too big a question to answer, but I'll be honest. Too big a question.
Next question. Most vain player at the club?
Still here or gone?
Can be gone.
Wow. That's going to have to be Luca Raven, isn't it? It's got to be. It's got to be. With those gnashes, it has to be Luca Raven. It has to be.
And then at the club, who would you say is your closest friend? Or your closest to?
Ooh. Probably the staff, to be honest. Probably I'd say like Cleggy and Baz and the rest of them. I think, like obviously I stayed behind. I was asked to carry on my role. And there's seen a lot of changes. So, and I just think that from the minute that the whole staff sort of came into the club, that I was made to feel really welcome, and it was just business as usual. So yeah, I'd say that the staff members have been absolutely fantastic with me since they've come in.
Group, aren't they?
Yeah, you can see that they've worked together for a long time. Yeah. They all bring their own qualities to the setup, and you can see why they've got the results that they've had. It's obvious from the minute that you meet them and how they work. And they're very humble people as well. There's no, I mean, without naming names, I have worked in the past with a lot of people who are full of their own self-importance, and I've not seen any of that at all since they've come into the club.
Final question on this little game. I touched on it before with Ashton and Blackburn, but next season, who would you rather see promoted? If you could say, I want that, if they could get promoted at the expense of the other team, out of Ashton and Blackburn, who would it be?
It'd have to be Ashton. It'd have to be Ashton.
We'll ask you again off air,
yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Tom,
Yeah.
would you like to continue?
Yeah, leads us very nicely on to obviously next season. Obviously with the positive finish that we had towards the end, where do you think we can take this team next season, you and the coaching staff?
I think without asking everybody else at the club, I think everybody wants promotion. That's for sure. I think the owners have I think they'll give us a budget, which means that we can compete again at the top end of the table. From what I gather, most of the squad are going to be sort of kept on, and if Cleggy can sort of pull a few rabbits out of his hat, I don't think we'll be far off. I really don't. If we can keep that run going, that momentum, that sort of team spirit that we've had this year, I can see us being a real force for next season.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of looking away from the team, what are your own personal aims for next season?
Just to make sure that obviously the goalkeepers are in good condition, that they're excelling, that they do the jobs, and I'll be happy if they can get through the season without injuries, and they can get a few clean sheets and contribute towards the team hopefully getting promoted. Then yeah, for me, I'll be happy.
Brilliant. Kind of looking further into the future for yourself, where do you see yourself, say, in the next 5-10 years going?
I don't know. I don't know. It's I've worked in football academies before. I enjoyed it. I moved into non-league because I wanted to be part of a first team. I wanted to, there's nothing like a buzz of being in the dugout and being part of a group that wins and loses together. So I don't know. I just want to I always felt that if I was going to make a breakthrough into like professional football, like at first team level, then it wouldn't be through an academy. It would be through being in a group and getting promoted that way. So I don't know. We'll see. I want to. Obviously, I'm fully invested in Ashton, and I want to stay and help the group. So who knows? Maybe I might still be here in 5 years, and we might be in the Conference Prem or not. I kind of take it a season at a time, if I'm honest. So who knows? Who knows?
You live in the dream if Ashton in the Conference Prem. Kind of, you mentioned earlier as well your career in women's football. Could you see yourself going back into coaching women's football at all?
Probably at some point. I really enjoyed it. I think the only reason that I left was because, like I said, we'd hit the ceiling when the Elite League was set up. So it kind of made it impossible for us to sort of progress. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I was lucky at that age to start off in working for Blackburn Rovers in the women's national prem. I think at the time we were one of the best back teams in the league, and we got everything the first team got. We got the training facilities, which are fantastic at Brockhall. We had the first team coach. We had the same deal with hotels when we travelled away, when we got down to London, for example. So yeah, we were kind of spoiled, I guess, and if I got the opportunity to go back into the women's game, I'd certainly consider it. It was good fun. It was great.
Yeah, you mentioned there as well the whole women's game. Are you surprised how far it's come in such a short amount of time?
Not really, especially when the Elite League started. That was if I'm not mistaken, the idea of setting up that Elite League and moving to a summer division was to sort of combat at the time the women's game in America was professional, and we were losing all of our best players to that league. Kelly Smith and a few others had already gone. Leanne Sanderson, I think, was another one. One of ours, Katie Anderton, she'd left to go to the States, but she came back, and I think it was to sort of compete with that league. So it meant there had to be investment, not just from the FA, but from the clubs that were associated with the women's team as well. So once that investment came in, and then a little bit of TV exposure with BT, it didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Looking ahead to next season, whenever that does start, do you feel that there is the option that it might have to start without fans, and how would that kind of work? Or do you feel at this level they need the fans to progress?
Yeah, I can't see a non-league game happening behind closed doors. Clubs just can't afford to do it. At the end of the day, players need to be paid, and players can't be paid if fans aren't paying money through the gates. So until it's acceptable to have crowds back in the ground, I can't really see a non-league game starting, if I'm honest. So one thing that does worry me is if they say, well, we'll open up the non-league before the Football League, then you can have rammed stadiums because everyone's just going to come just because it's a game of football. I'm eager to get started just like everybody else, but until we can start having mass gatherings again, I really can't see the season sort of starting, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'm going to say FC and South Shields had 3,000 on the last game of the season, which was just ridiculous for this level. Kind of focusing a little bit on last season, do you feel it was ended fairly for everyone, the way it was kind of just put to null and void, or do you feel maybe a points per game system should have been used?
There was no way of ending this season early and making everybody happy. There was no way. You can't give people trophies and promotions without giving out relegations. And there'll be teams that could have been unfairly relegated, saying that they maybe had 10 plus games left to get out of it. You've got teams hovering around the playoffs saying, well, we might have won the playoffs, and you'll have the ones below the playoffs saying we might have snuck it in, and there was no easy way. So I can understand that people are upset that they didn't get promoted, but realistically, what else really was was the solution. There wasn't one. Like the common sense was it's just null and void. You know, I think I had a conversation with Jonathan not long ago, and I said, well, in hindsight, do you not think that maybe they were a bit hasty to cancel it when you could potentially reopen it in January perhaps and carry it on? But then you're in a situation where, well, you had people on contract last year up until April.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just suddenly say to them, you're not getting paid until we start back because they're on a contract. So then you had to pay them up. But then if you're then continuing the rest of that season that you've just played, you could have a completely different side because everyone's out of contract. So it was just becoming a little bit of a farce. So it's just a mess. It's unfortunate. And we're just going to have to sort of dust ourselves down and start again.
Yeah, it's a mess, but hopefully it can get back to how it was before. Final question for this section. What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned up until your point in this career?
It doesn't matter how much you think you know about football. There's always something around the corner that's going to not just blindside you. Like particularly when I was younger, and you used to reflect on your season and how it went, and you think, right, well, we've learned this and we've learned that, and then there'd always be a new set of problems the following season that you just didn't see coming. So I think that it's important that, you know, with every game, with every coaching session, with every interaction, that you've always got an open mind, because the minute that you think you've made it, or the minute that you think you're the best, you're in trouble. Because I think everyone would agree that as a coach, you're probably still learning things when you're 60 years old. You know, that's just, it's just an ever evolving process, and you've just got to stay on your toes and just absorb everything that comes your way, really.
It's a little bit like life then, isn't it? Really? You just got to keep evolving to the situation.
Yeah, correct.
And that pretty much ends the show, unless anyone else has any other questions for Kieran.
No, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
Been really good speaking to you.
Yeah,
Brill.
One of our better guests we've had.
Yeah.
Unlike that other muck.
Yeah, that Clegg.
Yeah. He's a good guy, and he's a good character.
Yeah,
It is,
top
man. Yeah.
Right, well,
thanks, guys.
Good way. Yeah, good way to close it. Thanks very much, Claire.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Boys.